Have a look at these conditions. These were the prescriptions from the IMF under the Washington Consensus. These conditions were then forwarded to developing countries seeking bailout from the IMF. The acceptance of these conditions were and are the prerequisite to obtain a bailout from the IMF. 1991 economic reforms in India are widely credited to Dr. Manmohan Singh. But was he really the responsible person behind those economic reforms? During 1990, India was experiencing political turmoil, and after the removal of Rajiv Gandhi, there was no stable government at the center. And from 1989 to 1991, India saw two prime ministers, VP Singh and Chandrasekhar, who infamously pledged Indian gold to obtain credit. At the same time, there was a war going on in the Gulf between Iraq and the West over Kuwait that inflated the fuel prices globally and further dried up Indian dollar reserves. Then Narasimha Rao formed the minority government in India and approached I.G. Patel, the former governor of RBI, to strike a deal with the Washington institutions.
On June 21st, 1991, Narasimha Rao was appointed Prime Minister. On July 24th, exactly 1 month later, Dr. Manmohan Singh delivered the historic budget that would change India irrevocably. However, do you really believe that significant structural and revolutionary reforms that overturned the policies of the previous 4 prime ministers could be reversed in just 1 month? Unless and until the draft policy was already planned and prepared. In the years leading up to 1991, technocrats like Subramaniam Swamy, who was also the Minister of Commerce and Industry in the Chandrasekhar government from 1990 to 1991, and wrote about how India's economic policies had been blocking the country's rise to potential and structural changes needed, and also prepared a draft for the opening up of the economy. But the Chandrasekhar government was short-lived and could not pull off those reforms politically. If the broad range of reforms, including tearing down the industrial license permit Raj, and exchange rate correction and liberalizing foreign direct investment and trade policies, could be launched within a matter of days of a new government of Narasimha Rao joining office, it is because the blueprints were ready, waiting for the go-ahead from the political leadership.
So Dr. Singh became the finance minister and was sent to negotiate with the Washington institutions, the IMF. But it was less of a negotiation and more of an acceptance of everything the IMF told India. And Dr. Singh was tasked with executing exactly the same conditions dictated upon by the IMF. These conditions were the result of British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher's Thatcheronomics and US President Ronald Reagan's Reaganomics that resulted in a document called Washington Consensus, whose sole aim was to move South American countries from socialism to free market economies. India was also handed the same document, and Dr. Singh framed the same policies that were dictated upon him without any ifs or buts. So Dr. Singh didn't come up with the same Indian economy plan himself and was given or dictated the policy draft that he just had to read out in the parliament. The negotiations between Dr. Singh and Washington institutions took place in complete secrecy. The political burden to implement those reforms were borne by Narasimha Rao, who was given no credit at all. The opposition from the left and the trade unions was largely ignored, as transport in India would have completely shut down within days if the IMF loan was not taken, and import were not resumed. The similar conditions are prevailing in Pakistan and Sri Lanka, who are seeking a bailout and is handed over conditions by the IMF to be implemented.